Thank you everybody for joining this webcast. So today we will talk about upgrades. We will talk about mission critical databases and how to upgrade those mission critical databases that usually run on RAC and follow the MAA practices in the easiest way as possible. My name is Ludovico Caldara. I work as a principal product manager in the Oracle Database, high availability, scalability, and maximum availability architecture product management team. It's a very long name for a team. I always like to say that. And I'm very happy today to share the stage with Mike. He's a dear colleague and friend of mine. And we presented in the past at Open War. I was a customer. He was in Oracle, and I'm more than happy to be his colleague and present this today. Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, and thank you also from my side. And happiness is really also on my side. So my name is Mike. I'm the product manager for database upgrades and migrations. And really, I'm really glad to be here with Ludo because we know each other for a long time. And we worked together when Ludovico was on the customer side, as he said, and now we are colleagues. And even better, because now we can exchange all the internal stuff as well, which I had to hide before. So today we would like to guide you through upgrades in relation to MAA. And we put some program together. And I think, Ludo, we will fill the next 60 minutes quite well, do we?
Yeah, of course. It would be very exciting. Yeah.
We have a lot of slides. And if you think you need more afterwards, then you may know the upgrade blog, MikeDietrich.de.com, and you may know Ludo's blog already, LudovicoCaldara.net. And on both blogs, you find a lot of useful information, only technical information. No food pictures, no cat pictures. I think at least last time I went on your blog, which I do on a regular basis, it was just deep technical things. And this is what the blogs are really made for, to help you, to assist you. So feel free. And also feel free to follow both of us on Twitter. We use Twitter solely for technical and technical related purposes. So no offensive stuff shared there. We would like to start just to warm you up a little bit here with release and patching strategy. And first of all, a distinction, because for, I would say, over half a year now, we do a distinction between long-term and innovation releases. So the difference is basically a long-term release has 5 years minimum of premier support, plus followed at least 3 years of extended support. And sometimes we extend even the extended support even more, as you have seen with 12.102 or with 11.204. If you have a ULA agreement, a PULA, or engineered system, so I think many in this call have engineered systems, then usually this extended support is even included, and this makes it easier for you to stay very long on a long-term support release. Innovation releases have a very short time frame, only premier support, no extended support, and that immediately leads to the conclusion your production estate goes from long-term support release to long-term support release. It's simple, and you really should nail this on your wall: production, long-term to long-term. Innovation releases are meant for developers. If the developer wants to experience blockchain tables or JSON native data types, then innovation release may be fine, but production, long-term to long-term. This slide here actually is the driver to push you forward. I think nobody in the call really says, oh, it's bright, nice, sunny weather outside. Let's do a database upgrade or a migration. That usually does not happen. It's basically us. We push you forward. We tell you at this point support is over. And when this period or this date comes closer, then people start thinking about, okay, let's move forward. So for 11.204, we are at the moment in market-driven support, which is an extra cost thing. So we still fix security and priority 1 bugs for customers who have signed a contract for market-driven support, but those are not available for everybody. 12.102 is really close to the end of extended support, so be aware of that. And I know that some of you are still on 12.102. and you may need to move forward. And for 12.2, 18, and 19, and 21, I will zoom in a little bit. But before we do this, just when you download the slides, no worries, I won't read that here. But all the support periods and color codes are on the slides and give you, again, an idea what the periods are for. Let me drive in and zoom in into 12.201 at first. Some of you are still on 12.201. We see this from our SR statistics because it was deemed to be the second release of 12.2 where everybody upgrades to. And since so many people were on 12.201, we added 1.5 years of limited error correction support, which is light red here because there's no extra price tag on it. It is just included for everybody without any action or any extra pay, but it applies only to security fixes and severity 1 bug fixes. But we still, and you may have recognized this, we still release the release updates for 12.201. 18C, if you are still on 18C, then I have to say, wake up. You have to move forward because support is over for 18C. There are no bug fixes, no bundle patches anymore. You must move to 19C. And in brackets below, you see 19C is like 12.203. So it's like in the old terminology, we would have said it's the second patch set and it's the terminal patch set for 12.2 with a new release numbering. This is the release where you're safe for a very long time. Premier support runs until end of April 2024. That's more than 2 years from now on, almost 2.5 years, and still extended support, additional 3 years. So if you have extended support, you are safe until end of April 2027, which is quite comfortable. And then you'll see in like dotted lines below 23, and the dotted lines are intentionally because this is just like pure fiction. 23 will be the next long-term support release, but please don't nail us down on the date. We will see when it gets released. There will be still enough overlap between 19C and 23C to allow you, even if you have hundreds or thousands of databases, to move to 23C safely. 21 here, you see it. It ends at the same date as 19C, but it's an innovation release. So it's really meant for developers who want to develop a new application. Just make sure to explain them that this application needs an extra certification once 23C is out, because you will move your production estate only from 19C to 23C. And if you would like to read all these dates, because that's a lot of information here, must note 742060.1. I call it a single source of truth because this is the MOS node which has all these dates in it, and you find also the availability of patch sets and things like that. But now with that, Ludovico, your turn, fleet patching and provisioning.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. So we talk about upgrades, but we also talk about mission critical databases, and we cannot talk about mission critical databases without talking about maximum availability architecture. So you're probably not new to those slides, so I will not go into the detail of the slides, but just to let you know that we have a team of people in Oracle that test all the high availability solutions, test them for reliability, for availability, and gather all the customer insight and recommendation to provide the best practices for, again, high availability, operational practices for all the type of database that we have, generic system, engineered system, and cloud databases. And with this in mind, we offer the blueprints of the different reference architectures, starting from bronze, the most simple one, that there is a single instance, up to platinum reference architecture. Again, I will not go into the detail, but the silver one is really important because it is where we introduce real application cluster. Real application cluster provide enhanced availability, not only because it provides fault tolerance in case you have, for example, an instance failure or a server failure, but it gives you the capability of doing rolling patches. So if you want to modify some parameters in your database, if you want to patch your operating system or patch your database, you can do it online with an application cluster because you can do it in a rolling fashion. You stop one instance. Well, first you drain the instance away from the instance. You stop the instance. You start it with the new parameters or with the new patch level. And then you do the same for the second instance and the remaining instance in your cluster. And this is really important, and this is where we position fleet patching and provisioning. Of course, you can use fleet patching and provisioning also for single instances, but with real application clustering, where you see the real benefit of doing patching online. And what is fleet patching and provisioning? It's a product that we have developed listening to customer saying that their biggest pains were patching databases and upgrading databases. And I have to admit that, well, it's not an easy task. And even with fleet patching and provisioning, it's not still a super easy task. You still have to plan carefully which patches you want to apply. Of course, when you want to apply them, and you still need to make sure that you have all the merge requests because you might have patch conflict. So this is not something that fleet patching and provisioning solves. But what fleet patching and provisioning can do for you is to automate the process of moving the databases from a non-patched Oracle home to the patched Oracle home. So it automates and it orchestrates those operations. And by doing that, it standardizes your environments. That means that if you have hundreds of databases or thousands of databases, you do always the same process by using fleet patching and provisioning. Of course, you can do the same with your scripts, but you have to develop them. In this case, fleet patching and provisioning is something that we develop for you, and we try and we actually implement all the best practices for maximum availability architecture. Okay, so fleet patching and provisioning is a central server. And from there, you orchestrate the operation on all the different targets. And it has a cold image repository, and where you can store your preferred images, the images that you want to deploy everywhere. And from there, you can deploy all those images to the different targets. That can be single nodes, cluster, Exadata clusters. And it supports from 11.2, so not, sorry, Mike, but we still support 11.2 with fleet patching and provisioning because it's, it's a market-driven one. But actually, well, we see that thanks to fleet patching and provisioning and thanks to AutoUpgrade that Mike will present later, we have more and more customers that upgrade to 19C, but at least they can keep the last release update so that at least they are applying the security patches that are the most important, not the only important part, but I would say the most important. So fleet patching and provisioning has many features, and well, it can provision, patch, upgrade databases, and provision, patch, and upgrade also grid infrastructure. So it doesn't only deal with databases, but also with the grid infrastructure stack with your clusters, and can install and remove Oracle homes. So there are many other features, but we will concentrate really today on installing new Oracle homes and upgrade databases and clusters. So if you want to have a full feature set of fleet patching and provisioning, there are webcasts out there that we have recorded in the past. You can watch them. But today we focus on those because those are the three main features that you will need to use if you want to upgrade your clusters to the next version. So about installation, when you start an upgrade project, you start with grid infrastructure and the application cluster. And the first step that you need to do is to upgrade your grid infrastructure stack. You cannot have 19C database with a 12.2 grid infrastructure. That will never work. And even before that, you need to upgrade your operating system if you are on an operating system that is not supported with the grid infrastructure. So we don't have anything that automates the upgrade of the operating system, but my suggestion is if you need to upgrade the operating system, what you can do, and there are notes about it, you can stop a node, remove that node from the cluster, and add a new node with the new operating system. You add it to the cluster, you relocate all the services to the node with the new operating system, and then you remove and add the second node with the new operating system. We don't have anything that automated because it depends, of course, on your operating system. But when you have an operating system that supports the new grid infrastructure, in our case, we are talking about 19C, you need to install the software. The grid infrastructure support rolling upgrades. That means that you can upgrade one node at a time while your database are still running and servicing the applications. And the first step is to install the grid infrastructure. So if you have flip patching provisioning with a single command, you can do rhpctl add working copy, specify the image that you want to install, specify the client name where you want to install, the working copy name, because you need to give a name to the Oracle home that you are installing on the cluster, and the path. And because you already have a grid infrastructure there, you need to specify software only. Software only means that we are not configuring a new cluster, but we are just installing the binaries to be ready for the upgrade. And here we don't specify any user, we don't specify any groups, DBA, Oper, or ASM admin, because flip patching provisioning detects that the cluster is already there and use the very same user and groups. So this is a higher level of automation compared to what you would do. That would be to download the zip for a grid infrastructure, install them software only, apply the release updates, make sure that you're linked correctly with the correct user and the correct groups. Everything is automated by flip patching and provisioning. Of course, flip patching and provisioning is not mandatory. You can do everything by hand, but again, we develop it and you can use it for free if you have a real application cluster, so why not? Then, once you have grid infrastructure with a new version that is staged in a software-only installation mode, you can run, again, a single command to do a rolling upgrade of grid infrastructure. Starting with, I think at 18C, we have a way to do rolling upgrades with grid infrastructure, and probably even with 12.2, but that was not an easy task. With flip patching and provision is a single command where you specify the source working copy, so the source Oracle home, the destination Oracle home, and eventually the batches, how you want to divide your upgrade of the different nodes. And what flip patching and provisioning will do will drain the services, stop the database, stop the grid infrastructure stack, and restart it with the new version. Okay, and with this first node, the cluster will be in a rolling status, meaning that it's upgrading in a rolling way. And then it will relocate the service back and do the same for the other nodes. Why the batches are important is because if you have, for example, an 8-node cluster, FPP will always do rolling and serial unless you specify something different. So it will do one node at a time, and it will take probably 20 minutes per node. That means that with 8 nodes, you will need to have a long maintenance window. Not downtime because your databases will be up, but a long maintenance window. So with batches, with the batches option, you can divide, for example, do nodes 1, 2, 3, and 4 with one batch, and node 5, 6, 7, 8 in a second batch. In this way, you reduce your maintenance windows. This is a good way to do it if you have, for example, a short maintenance window, or you want to go, for example, you have a maintenance window on the Saturday and you don't want to spend the whole Saturday watching the nodes going down and up, but you prefer to just do in 2 shots. You can also do everything in parallel, but it means that you will have no time, but you have the choice to do that if you want. And about databases, it's the same concept. First, you will have all the databases with 12.2, and you need to provision your new called image, okay? So again, with a single command, you provision the database binaries, and you install the database binaries to the clusters. If it's a real application cluster, it will install with the RAC option to all the nodes. If it's a single instance, we'll install just a single instance. But you need to have these database binaries ready somewhere. And in this case, we see that you specify user and optionally also the groups, because you can have different groups. and different Oracle user for the different database that you host on the cluster, because the grid infrastructure is always the same user, but the databases might belong to different users. So it's your responsibility to specify the correct users and groups in this case. And upgrading the database, this is, I would say, less trivial than upgrading the grid infrastructure, because grid infrastructure, you start with a new version and it will work. The database, you have a lot of modification that will happen inside the database. So it looks like the syntax is very simple. It's RHPCTL upgrade database. You specify the DB name that you want to upgrade, the source Oracle home, the target Oracle home. But what will happen, we all know that upgrading databases is not just as easy as it looks like. So there will be a long project where you evaluate everything. You evaluate the impact of the upgrade, evaluate if all your clients are up to date, if all the parameters are okay, if you don't need to have any deprecated parameters, for example. You need to make sure that all your passwords are the new ones, that you don't have any leftovers of 10G password that are case insensitive. I mean, there are lots of stuff to do. But what flip patching and provisioning does, it automates the execution of a tool that does the upgrade. Okay, and what a tool normally does, if you upgrade a real application cluster database, is to convert the database to a single instance database, cluster database equal false, move it to the new Oracle home and upgrade it. And once the upgrade is complete, we convert it back to a cluster database and it will be ready to run the applications again. Okay, so FPP does not invent anything new. FPP uses the very same tool that you use for your operations today, with the only difference that it orchestrates those operations according to our best practices. And hopefully you will have a better experience if you do it with patching and provisioning rather than doing it by hand. But we use for flip patching and provisioning as a single entry point, where with a single command you orchestrate all those tools. That for installation will be run installer and grid setup. For patching will be, for patching the databases will be data patch. FPP does not use a patch and a patch auto, because it's always an out of place installation of the binaries. So you patch the binaries, you provide the binaries as an image to FPP that will distribute it to the different the different targets or cluster. Of course, the creation and the location of the services, for example, will be with the BCA and subctl. And for the upgrades, historically, flip patching and provisioning was using database upgrade assistant, and by default, it is still the case. With the FPP 21C, we have introduced also the integration with AutoUpgrade. That is, yeah, Mike says, that's the best tool that you want to use for upgrades. And because 19C is the long-term support, and we don't want you to use FPP in production with 21C unless you want to test new functionalities, we have backported the AutoUpgrade integration in 19C. And it has become available with the very latest patch set. There was the October one, that is a 1913. So if you want to do an upgrade with AutoUpgrade, you just do RHPCTL upgrade database name, source Oracle home, destination Oracle home, AutoUpgrade, and then you can specify 3 additional parameters for the moment. If you want to upgrade the time zone, yes or no. If you want to run UTLRP, yes or no, because that might require some time, and some customers prefer to speed up this process by not recompiling during the upgrade process. Mike will explain it better later. And if you want to create a guaranteed restore point, yes or no. So we have this integration today if you want to try the upgrades using flip patching and provisioning, but in the backend, it's AutoUpgrade, and it's very important that you understand that flip patching and provisioning, you can use it to automate the upgrade process, but you should not rely on FPP for all the steps of the upgrade, because if something goes wrong, you need to understand how AutoUpgrade works and how the upgrade process, of course, works, and be able to take the ownership of the upgrade process at any time, and be sure that you can continue if it fails for any reason. And with that, I let Mike continue with AutoUpgrade.
Yeah, thank you. And you got an idea that Ludovico worked a long time on the customer side because he warned you of all these things. And I remember when we worked together and when you were on the customer
20
side,
years.
yeah, you came to us and said, hey, I saw this, I saw that. And from not only Ludovico's experience, but also from our customers, we said, okay, we need to put that into a tool. And this is actually how AutoUpgrade got born. And I'm so happy to see that FPP now with 1913 supports also AutoUpgrade in 19C, which is awesome and a big step forward for all of us, I think. So yeah, next chapter, then upgrade to 19C. Actually, I wouldn't have to tell you now because, I mean, RHP, FPP does it for you. You don't need to care. Just use it, right? This is the right way. But I know that a lot of you would like to, you don't trust these black boxes. You would like to look behind what's behind the curtain, what's going on there. And this is why we included that part. So your step to, or your move to a successful database upgrade is first step. Normally you need a software, but you do this in order to build your gold images for FPP. And same thing, Ludovico explained, you don't need OPatch and OPatch Auto because you build your gold images and you let them distribute by FPP. The only additional step is you need always the newest AutoUpgrade tool, which you download, because this tool you download from this mouse node is guaranteed newer than the one you have on disk, for sure. But as Ludovico said, with all his experience working on the customer side and working inside Oracle, I would say upgrade is a simple task. The hard part is really the step number 4, which we don't cover today. It's testing. Like Ludovico said, hey, are my clients working, passwords, but also and especially all the performance testing part. Do you have any unexpected surprises? Nobody wants unexpected surprises except for at Christmas or your birthday. But otherwise, with your database, you prefer stability. And we won't cover that here today, but the upgrade, I'm so happy that FPP can now automate this part as well, because I will show you now what we do in the back end so you understand the full picture and you don't have to trust the black box. First of all, if you want to go to 19C, you have to be on 11.204, 12.102, 12.201 on 18. When you still find one of these older releases here and there, you may need to do a double hop, like go from 10.205 to 11.204 and then forward to 19C. In all cases, if you think, hey, it's too old, the database is not so big, you can always use data pump and export with data pump and import regardless of the patch levels. That always works from 10 on. If you have still older databases, old export works even with Oracle 5 databases, even directly into multi-tenant if you need to. So then AutoUpgrade, the only recommended way to upgrade your databases. And it's really born from customers. As I explained, so customers came to us and almost every customer asks us, why do I have all these extra steps? Why can't Oracle deliver a universal tool doing that for you? And all this has been put into AutoUpgrade. So I would like to explain you how AutoUpgrade works and give you a few hints, especially in direction of maximum availability architectures. So first of all, grab the newest version. This version is guaranteed newer than the one you have on disk. Check. Here it's the July version. I think meanwhile we have a new version out on MOS already. And you download this and you just put it into your Oracle Home. You overwrite the existing AutoUpgrade jar file. Nothing else to do. There's no OPatch involved here. You just copy and overwrite the existing one in RDBMS admin. Then double check Java minus jar, AutoUpgrade jar minus version. And here you see this would be an older version. It's from April. And the newer version here is from July. So you take the July version, then all is fine. And there's only one AutoUpgrade. Even though we recommend that you upgrade to 19C, if you think, I want to upgrade to 21C, or for a project constraint, I have to go to 12.201 because my application is not certified with 19C, AutoUpgrade can do that as well. All the versions mentioned here are supported by one single tool. Then the only task you have to do is, unless you use FPP, you have to prepare one config file. And this config file has your source home, your target home, and the SID of the database you'd like to upgrade. If you wonder about this prefix in italics, UPG1, that is a prefix because in an AutoUpgrade config file, you can cover not only one database, you can cover 100 or 1,000 of databases if you want to. And in order to distinct the databases and differ from database A to database B, we have this prefix. We use UPG1 and UPG2. You can use whatever you want. So if you feel that you need to name your prefixes Mike and Ludovico, feel free. Fully up to you. Then, next step, we need to kick off AutoUpgrade now with this config file. And as first step, we recommend that you run an analyze. This analyze is non-intrusive. It doesn't write anything in your database, and you can run it as often as you want. It will check your source database for any findings. Like Ludovico said already, are my users okay? Anything I need to check? Parameters, do I have to do some treatments? Do I have to remove a component? Whatever you can think of, AutoUpgrade checks this upfront, non-intrusive, without changing anything. But it tells you that. So what we do here is we give you a log file, and this line here in red, pre-check passed, and no manual intervention needed. That is what you're looking for, because that means, okay, you can schedule AutoUpgrade at night and let it run now, unattended. If you still would like to get more information, at the same time, you write an HTML report. So let us drill in here and check the pre-checks report for our database. And it is pre-checks report here. It is for a container database with 2 PDBs and a PDB $seed. We see it's a 12.2.1 database. It's an enterprise edition in archive log mode. And you see also all components are either valid or option off. This is good. And then for each of the containers, root, seed, and the PDBs, we have a section. What you need to watch out for is errors. There is no error mentioned, and this is good, because error would mean we have a blocking situation usually, or we have to check if AutoUpgrade can fix it. Let us check here the first part recommended for CDB $root. And here you see that we found 2 things. First of all, dictionary statistics need to be refreshed. Now the command is here, but you see also in the apricot line, there's fix up available, yes. That means if you don't do it, AutoUpgrade does it for you. So you don't have to care. The second finding here, hidden parameters, there's no fix up available, which doesn't mean that you have to do something, but we list the underscores and the events. We don't want to master you. Now, you are the boss, you're the head of the database, and it's your database. So if you think you would like to keep your underscores and events, keep them. AutoUpgrade has a parameter to remove them if you want to, but we don't remove them without asking you. We just list them and tell you here, hey, please check whether you would like to remove some of these old leftovers from the past. Then you can kick off AutoUpgrade, and -mode deploy does now the following. It runs again the analyze. Then it runs the fix-ups, so it fixes everything. It runs the upgrade, and it will also do all the post-upgrade steps, like recompilation and time zone change, dictionary statistics gathering, and so on. So you can have a cup of coffee or tea and wait, or you could monitor. When you kick off AutoUpgrade, it opens a job console, and with lsj, the Unix command ls with a J for job, you see the actual job running. But it's much easier. You don't have to type lsj 50 times. You just open your browser and you pass on your logging directory, which either you specified it in the config file, or it's just a standard AutoUpgrade tells you in the previous screens. And you go to cfg2 logs upgrade auto, and there's this state HTML. You just pass this onto your browser. Just copy paste it into your browser line where you put your URLs into. And then you sit there, you cross your hands, you lean back in your chair, and you can monitor the upgrade. While AutoUpgrade is upgrading here, in this case, two databases at the same time. It refreshes automatically. Nothing to do from your side. No Python server to be started anymore. AutoUpgrade just refreshes that page automatically every few seconds. All the details back to the command line, to the job interface. If you need to know more now, you say status minus job 101 or 100, whatever the job number was. It showed you with LSJ the job number. And here you see in which state AutoUpgrade is. You see also the log locations. And at some point, you see also where it is in that database. So here in our environment, CDB.root has been upgraded 12%. Seed upgrade is pending, and PDB freeze upgrade pending as well. Because in a multi-tenant environment, we always upgrade the root container first and then the PDBs in parallel, depending on the available CPU resources. At the end, hopefully, it's completed successfully, all is there, and you see that AutoUpgrade writes also a guaranteed restore point. So we allow you now to flashback if you need to, which is especially important if you want to test your upgrade several times, because then you can go back to the restore point without restoring anything by yourself. Just in AutoUpgrade minus restore minus job, and job number was 101. And then it goes backwards with a flashback database. And this is important to mention. Around that, it covers all the SRV CTL part, and it copies back SP files and everything in place again. Recompilation done, time zone, post-upgrade, and much, much more. Let us have a quick demo here to see how that works. So this is the config file I would like to show you, and it's the least or the shortest version, source home 12.2, target home 19, SID DB12. Very short. Now we kick off Java minus char, AutoUpgrade char with the config file I showed you, and mode analyze. This will check now my source database. Here you see the command prompt, and with LSJ, I see that job 100 does pre-checks, and you have to be very fast because that usually completes very, very fast. Job 100 completed, but we have logs. First of all, the HTML, but we will look now into the text log file for a quick sneak in. So it's 12.201 to 1912. And here you see that is the line I was looking for. Pre-checked passed and no manual intervention, which is good. Now we do the same thing, but minus mode deploy. This will now repeat the analyze. It will then do, as here, fix ups. So it will fix everything it found and tell you also where it is. So still at the beginning of the fix ups. Now we speed up because this is not an upgrade seminar. Go forward. Now we are in the upgrade. It's running, and in a new version of AutoUpgrade, we tell you also the percentage. But when I do a status minus job 101, I see that we are 5 minutes into the upgrade already. Here are all the logs. And below that, we see it's 10% of the DB12 database. And shortly, hopefully, it finishes. Here it is. Upgrade completed, job 101. You see that there's still the GRP. We either flashback or we remove the GRP once the upgrade has completed to our success. And let's check it's 1912 and all done. And this is AutoUpgrade. So it's no rocket science, but it does a lot of things in the background. And good thing here, a lot of you have engineered systems. AutoUpgrade is also the preferred method on Exadata. So the MEA team and our upgrade team have worked really closely together for months to make AutoUpgrade also the preferred solution here and allow you to upgrade all your databases on Exadata once you have upgraded your grid infrastructure, first with FPP, then to 19C. That's the way. And with that, AutoUpgrade and DataGuard. And a quick thing here, many of you for sure have also a standby database, I bet. Hopefully you have one. And how do we interact here with AutoUpgrade on a standby database? So with the primary, we have the standby, we do redo apply. Let's say, oh my God, it's one of those 11204 databases, Ludovico. Oh, wow. Yeah, but they are still around. We know that. And now you want to go to 19C. So you use FPP. As Ludovico explained before, you deploy your 19C homes. All is good. Latest release upgrade. And then if you do it manually, you stop your redo apply and you shut down. But I explain you the MAA recommendation afterwards. Then you upgrade your database with AutoUpgrade to 19C on the primary side. Then you mount the standby in a new Oracle home. And then you start redo apply. And the cool thing is, as it was always, you don't upgrade your standby database with AutoUpgrade or any other tool. You just redo apply the changes from the previous upgrade, and then all is done. So that's the way to go. And if you would like to watch that, the videos are on YouTube. AutoUpgrade now detects this situation. It detects that there's a data guard environment out there, and it works with broker managed and manual data guard environments. The primary database is handled by AutoUpgrade. The standby database needs to be handled by you. So you need to stop and start by yourself, because AutoUpgrade currently doesn't jump on the remote on the standby server and does the things for you. So we don't go into that here. MAA approach, this is a bit different from what I showed you. The MAA approach is keep the standby online during upgrade. This allows a faster go live. And I see the point here. I leave it up to you. Excuse me. I leave it up to you what you prefer. Move the standby database to the new Oracle home before upgrade. That would be the MAA approach. In the demo I showed you, we did it after the upgrade. And keep redo transport and redo apply on during upgrade. You can do that, absolutely. And it's a MAA recommendation, so up to you which type you prefer. Finally, we know everything works well on PowerPoint always, but just in reality, if something goes wrong, AutoUpgrade has this fantastic functionality. If anything goes wrong, AutoUpgrade.jar minus your config file minus zip option, minus zip. And this puts all the logs together, AutoUpgrade writes, and believe me, it writes a lot of log information because we want to be transparent as possible, plus the alert log, it's included. Then you gather an OPatch LS inventory and you upload it together to your SR on My Oracle support, and then support is everything which is needed. AutoUpgrade, grid infrastructure, and RAC. One thing to point out here, as Ludovico said before, AutoUpgrade is not taking care on GI upgrades. This is still either you call the grid setup by yourself or you use FPP to upgrade it to avoid any manual steps. AutoUpgrade takes care on the databases and also takes care on the SRV CTL configuration. So this is all handled when you use AutoUpgrade by the tool itself, also when you fall back, when you restore to the guaranteed restore point. But the GI upgrade is done by FPP or by yourself. And with that, Ludovico, you have something to add here, I think.
Yes, may I add an additional point here? Never forget to install the clusterware release update when you are on real application clusters, because we have many customers that forget that. And it happened to me in the past as well, where we had problems with the cluster that was unstable. We wanted to apply a fix, and we applied a fix in the GI stack, but actually the fix was meant to be applied on the database side. So if you're a real application cluster, don't forget the clusterware. And a couple of other hints, if you, well, we are talking about mission critical databases, so do not forget to test the upgrade process. Test many times the upgrade process. So always clone, try the upgrade, and repeat until it's super smooth, because you have a super smooth upgrade in your production database. And another thing is fleet patching and provisioning. When it uses AutoUpgrade, it uses the AutoUpgrade that you have in the target Oracle home. So it's also important that when you prepare your gold images, you include the latest version of AutoUpgrade in the gold image, and that you use that image for your upgrade. So that when FPP will trigger that upgrade process, it will use the latest AutoUpgrade, but also you will have to use the very same image for your test environment and your production environment, because you want the very same patch levels, and you want to use the same version of AutoUpgrade that you use for your tests. You don't want to use the latest version of AutoUpgrade for the production, but the latest -1 for the test, because that might introduce something that you cannot expect. So if it worked properly with the AutoUpgrade latest -1, it will work properly again with the production database. Don't introduce any variable and always use the super stable code image that you deploy with fleet batching and provisioning. Now, about downtime, we have seen a lot of AutoUpgrade, a lot of automation, but that requires downtime. And depending on your database, it might be just 1 hour, or it might be a few hours. Worst case, it can be several hours. I remember a database of the customer where it took so much time that there was something wrong with everything with the database. So always test and always try to reduce the downtime. And we have a super way to reduce the downtime when you do upgrades. It's what we call the rolling upgrades. And we need to use DataGuard for that. So it's not automated by fleet batching and provisioning. It's not automated by AutoUpgrade. It's something that you have to do either manually or by using some automation that I will explain now. But the concept is that you use a transient logical standby that does logical replication in a way that allows to upgrade the logical standby while your application is still connected to the primary database. And the downtime that you can achieve with this method is as quick as a DataGuard switchover, even quicker, because the standby database is already on open. So you don't even need to restart it, okay? So it can be down to a few seconds while you did an upgrade that lasted hours, for example. And how it works, you have the bare minimum configuration, a primary and a standby database, a physical standby database, okay? So you have the exact same copy. Then what you need to do, well, of course, you have the users connected to the primary databases. And on the primary database, you create a guaranteed restore point, because at some point, you will have 2 different incarnations, one for the leading database that will become the 19C database, and one for the following database that is the primary until to the point where you do the switchover. So you will need to flash it back to come back to the same incarnation so that you can restart the recovery. Okay. Then on the primary database, you build a log miner directory that gives the possibility to convert your physical standby database to a transient logical standby. Once it is a logical standby, you start the SQL apply so that you sync all the modification that you did on the primary database to the logical standby. This is logical replication, so not every database might be, well, in not every database will be possible to do that, but I would say most of them. And once it is in sync with the SQL modification, so we are not talking about block modification, but really statements that modify the data, the modifications that you apply to the logical standby create their own redo logs, because the logical standby at this point is open read-write, so it generates redo log. And this is very important because we will need to apply those redo logs to the old primary database. Then you stop the SQL apply, you move the transient logical standby to the new Oracle and you upgrade it. Okay, and the applications are still connected to the 12.2 or 12.1 database, okay, or 11.2 if you want. Once the upgrade is done, you can restart the SQL apply so that all the modifications that happened meanwhile are replicated again to the database that now is 19C, but the modifications can happen because it's not a physical replica, but it's a logical replication of your data. So you can still replicate this data inside the 19C database. At this point, you can switch over and move your application load to the new database that now is 19C. So super fast, now you have the production database that is 19C. What about the regional database? Now, we cannot start applying the redo logs there because it's a different incarnation. So we need to flash it back to a point where it was matching the same incarnation as the 19C database and convert it to physical standby. This conversion will restart the redo apply and will apply all the modifications to this database. Well, of course, we need to start it with a new with the new Oracle Home, but then it will redo all the modifications up to be in sync again. And here you have, again, a primary and a physical standby database. And optionally, you can do a switchover again so that the primary database is on the same host as it was before starting the upgrade process. The downtime here is the time of 2 switchovers, comparing to probably hours of time spent upgrading the database. Now, you can do it manually, and this is a very long and tedious way to do it. If you have Active Data Guard, and I will not start explaining how I like Active Data Guard and how you can have a super good return of investment with Active Data Guard, but if you have it, you can use DBMS rolling. So it is a PL SQL package that we do recommend to do these rolling upgrades that you can run in 6 simple steps. So you have the init plan. When you prepare, you define which is the leading database that will become 19C, which is the primary database that will be the following database. And optionally, and what we recommend for the MAA best practices is to have 4 databases in total. 2 that will be the leading ones, and 2 that will be the following ones. So 2 will be moved to 19C, and 2 will stay in 12.2 until you do the switchover. And why we do recommend that? Because at any time, both databases have still a physical protection. So the DBMS rolling can also orchestrate the execution of multiple standby databases. Then you build the plan that will generate the list of steps that will be done automatically for you, and the start plan that will start the execution of the steps one by one until the point where you have the database for yourself to do the upgrade. And this is where you will run AutoUpgrade or FPP to run AutoUpgrade to upgrade your database. When the upgrade is ready, you can just run the switchover and finish the plan. Okay, so how many steps are we talking about? If you have a single primary and a single standby database, so the most simple configuration, you have 86 instructions. If you have multiple standby databases, you go easily above 100 steps that are completely automated by those 6 steps that you run with DBMS rolling. So it's very convenient. I would not say buy Active Data Guard just for this, because there are many other reasons, but you can also do it manually, and you will see that it's not easy. But if you really have mission critical databases and you want to upgrade them with the least downtime, this is the way to do it.